12th day of July. Unbelievable. It's 2023. I'm Dana. Welcome, everybody. Raphael Grossi is looking pretty frazzled. Everything is not going nice and stupid easy. Consider liking, subscribing, notifying, blocking. You can call in if that's what you're about. What did I get done now? I wonder. It's 709-589-4406. What's going on, Ben? Gamma Goat. This is something. Must have made a copy and it confused daylights that I make. You can call in if you like. Let's get rid of the music. We got the strangest story you're ever going to find on the planet is taking place right now in Asia. Between good and evil. International Atomic Energy Agency, front and center, is the evil. Your journalists, calling them evil would be being polite. We got a poll tonight. Should the International Atomic Energy Agency, South Korea, China, Taiwan, all of them finally admit that Fukushima nuclear fuel pools are melted down and that they're already gone. They've been gone for 12 years. So the buildings you're looking at are, to your left is reactor, the Stumper Reactor 3, and to the right is Stumper Reactor 4. This contraption was made to put on around, it was done with remote controls, built off-site, then brought in and assembled. This is off-site where they're making it. Disassembled it and brought it into Fukushima and assembled it around Reactor 1. Long after Reactor 1 had lost its inventory. And so that's 1/4 of the building, right? It's 150 feet by 150 feet, 50 meters by 50 meters, and it's 190 feet tall, 65 meters tall. So that section is the same height. In fact, it's higher than those two. The fuel pools were at the very top of the building. And the world's media for 12 years, for 10 years, since 2013, November, to your right, is different media pretending they're in the fuel pool at the top of the building. And I think it's time to give up that nonsense. This is nonsense. Grossi's looking frazzled. So the big story now is Asia is, instead of Asia being told that the buildings have melted down and blew up, they're not telling that story no more. What they're claiming now is that the alleged 1,000 tanks, we counted them, we only found 750, not 1,000 like they claim. And they claim the tanks have 2.2 grams of tritium in them. I'm not kidding you, that's what they're claiming. Reactor 3 was a mixed oxide fuel facility. So the cover-up has gone, they're gone crazy with it. North Korea media is reporting on a nuclear renaissance in, South Korea. Might as well call them North Korea. They're more terrorist than what North Korea is. Then yesterday, we got a professor, which is the very definition of evil for some reason. It says 1.37 million tons of wastewater includes approximately 2.2 grams of tritium. And tritium is so dangerous, apparently, it's going to take them 30 years to release it into the environment to 2.2 grams. So the question everybody should be asking themselves is, what happened to the other 10 million pounds? I'm sick of this. This industry is disgusting. Why is the planet sitting in silence? Why is everybody so incapable of understanding the urgency? So he said the discharge is like throwing a sugar cube, 3 grams of sugar cubes into the sea. Like it's so, because this is South Korea professor saying that, it's so, there's such a disconnect going on here. It's hard to believe this is real, right? That they're saying stuff like that. And then here they are pretending they're in the fuel pool, the North American media and United Kingdom media, Australia media. So when should we admit the fuel pools are gone? You can see 150 feet by 150 feet, and what it looks like on the height of the reactors. Then when you look at reactor 3 and 4, how can you not know the fuel pool is gone? It was at the very top of the building. And you can see 2 depictions. It's like every day is a nightmare. And the lie started right away. This is day 6, I believe it is. Let me see here. Where's when you connected power? Contaminated water, don't matter. This is a headline from this month. At 18,000 becquerels a kilogram out in front of Fukushima. Let's get into today's news coming up here. So the official story is 2.2 grams. And don't worry, though, it didn't get out of these destroyed buildings that don't exist anymore. No. It's actually all in the tanks. That's the official story now. It started about 3 weeks ago. And I could never have predicted that particular story. We do this 5 days a week on this subject. North America was covered, and it was an invisible plume. You can't see it or smell it or hear it or feel it or taste it or touch it or pick it up or perceive it. But if it was snow, it would be, think of a snow, then you would think about a snowstorm that takes 40 days to cover the entire planet and it never stops snowing after forever, for millions of years, and the snow never melts. Get rid of the snow and think about the same amount of numbers. Instead of snowflakes, think of atoms. And the last thing you need is atoms in that quantity. The International Atomic Energy Agency role is to analyze, confirm the data provided by the criminals, not directly collect samples and verify them themselves. Why wouldn't you do that? This story here is 105,000 sites of 1 ton bags, but no radiation got out. The only thing there is tritium, which is the last one you're worried about, and there's only 2.2 grams of it. And don't worry, that's in the tanks, but it's going to take 30 years to release 2.2 grams, so you don't harm the ocean. And it's like a bite of banana, according to the experts. According to all the professor after professor after professor, it's like sugar cubes. They have like 3 grams of sugar cubes. This is in Akuma, which is 2 miles from ongoing nuclear meltdowns, where this was this year's story about the International Atomic Energy Agency. These 30 million 1 ton bags, think about this, what we're talking about. The International Atomic Energy Agency, Rafael Grossi, said they're not a regulator, not in a position to judge or approve Japan's soil recycling project. Well, what's the point of you then? What do you mean you're not in a position to judge or approve? And yesterday they were talking like they're not for or against it. We're basically vapor. We're nobody. They have 5 options to get rid of the water, they said, which has been going into the ocean nonstop for 12 years. They're not in a position to judge or approve Japan's soil. The soil they're talking about is these 1 ton bags. They've been growing food right alongside it with 1 ton bags of radiation. International Atomic Energy, we got no say in it. And the world media is Japan gets crucial approval from the International Atomic Energy Agency to dump the water, which is, they've never stopped dumping it. The tanks were built to manipulate you and to believe nothing got out. You can't fill up the tanks because there's a whole lot of reasons. You're talking about multiple sieverts per liter. 3 sieverts is a lethal dose. The tanks would have to be ridiculously thick, 12 feet thick lead or something. Because you have 1.4 million sieverts then, which is a lethal dose from a long way away. It's like a sniper round from a quarter mile. Boop. You drop dead from the gamma shines, the X-rays, the neutron bombardments, the X-rays, the gamma shine. This is a very special night tonight, he said, when they handed him this empty blue folder. And the final report never even had any analysts done. They never done no independent on top of that themselves. International Atomic Energy Agency assures the safety of the water, but they're not for or against it. They're not a regulator, and Japan has the last say. It's the perfect combination for evil to flourish. So the poll tonight is, should we, Taiwan, Japan, China, South Korea, should they admit that these buildings are destroyed? Should they put these pictures up on the public television and say 2.2 grams got out, but don't worry, we got it in 1,000 tanks? And these were baby reactors, they're probably telling the population. They can't explain it away because that's the bottom portion, 1/4 of the reactors in their normal height. Right, so what you're looking at right here, that's the first quarter. That's the top of that. And that is higher than these. So the bottom portion is higher than the stumps of reactor 3 and 4. And you're in a whirl of shit for 12 years straight, and it's only going to get worse. This is climate change. Pulsing energy at the speed of light, invisible cloud that covers the planet. Every second, you got this pulsing. The entire planet is pulsing. Think about what kind of energy does it take for something to pulse every second, or just once, the speed of light, let alone every second, for millions of years. The reactors don't run on. There's no tritium plumes. I've never seen a tritium plume in my life. Rafael Grossi emphasized the IAEA report that his document is neither a recommendation nor an endorsement, and that the Japanese government has the final say. So they're equal to like a bonfire that's on a raft in a storm on the ocean, basically. UN Atomic Energy Chief visits Fukushima nuclear plant and supports the wastewater release, but he just said that they're not an authority, that they don't have any, there's no recommendation, no endorsement, and that the government has the final say. Supports the release. He's also visiting South Korea because there's war in the streets. People are screaming, murder him. And you can see it wearing on him now. It's literally wearing on him. UN gives Japan a stamp of approval, but of course he said, look, it's neither a recommendation nor an endorsement, and that the Japanese government has the final say. But the media is cutting your throat and using this fictional character known as International Atomic Energy Agency. This is what the buildings looked like originally. They stripped them with remote control cranes, and anything that had to be done by a bio robot, they used the homeless, the destitute, the victims of society. But the buildings that are left are smaller than that part there, which is the very bottom piece that you can't even see in this picture of what the building should look like. So the question, of course, is should the International Atomic Energy Agency, South Korea, China, Taiwan, and Japan finally admit that Fukushima nuclear fuel pools have melted down? Because this is outrageous. This is outrageous that this story was even conceived, let alone put into action. And we want everybody that's involved in this cover-up held accountable. Everybody, every one of them, every academic, every professor, every public relation firm, every pro-nuclear corporation that came out and lied. We want you all held accountable. And the best way to do it is educate the planet and wake the planet up, and you'll get held accountable. Scientists, Fukushima wastewater disposal won't affect the pH of the water. Like what have we totally lost? Oh, it's like 3 grams of sugar cubes going to the ocean. Oh, another professor, don't worry, it won't change the pH of the water. Like, what are you talking about? We're talking about something that's 2 billion times more toxic than industrial poison. And, some of the headlines over the last couple of stories over the last couple of days when they talk about the reactors, some reactors melted down. Like, really? That's all the reactors get is a blurp blurp? You're talking about a catastrophic event. Something melted down. What about the fuel pools that were at the top of the buildings? And that the stumps left are less than a quarter of the height of the buildings. And I mean less, too. We knew this right away. The fuel pools are at the very top of the building. I'm very frustrated that they're exterminating all the species. You got all the birds and whales and snails and seals and sea lions and everything else showing up emaciated in numbers that, and everybody's just, better get Trump. Common spent fuel pool now being sprayed with water. It was on the same height. it burnt down too, and so did reactor 6. They redacted all those pictures. Japan, according to the International Atomic Energy Agency, which is a disgusting, despicable, revolting coward, bunch of cowards, chicken necks. I mean, there's 865,000 extra cancers in the first year, but it was equal to 3 grams of sugar cubes. Every town you see in there's the second row, the third row from your left, that's highlighted underneath that row. The second row is the population in each of those towns. The third row is the Becquerels, and they're only just as strange as everything else. Now, they're not talking about tritium, they're talking about cesium. So they cooked up this public relations scam, and they implemented it in South Korea, China, Japan, Taiwan in particular, right? Because we've been covering this nonstop for several weeks. And we got some serious whole shit going on. All of these communities should have been evacuated, but weren't. They left them there to get sick and destroy their lives and their children's lives. Where's the news to? Let's get after it here. Japan returns to live stream fish in Fukushima safety campaign. So they've been doing this for quite a while, by the way. They allegedly got tanks at Fukushima and the water with fish in it, flounders and halibut. And they're taking the water, going through this ELP system. This is the story they're telling everybody. It's going through an ELP system, and it comes out the other end better than tap water, and the fish thrive in it. They're twice as big as they would be if they were in the ocean, they said. Well, that's a lie, I suppose. I can't understand why they're so evil. It's evil on a whole different scale. They don't need to be this evil. I hope, anyway. But it's about protecting the nuclear industry, so they're willing to, and have, sacrificed all the species and the future of humanity by pretending nothing happened. It's better to pretend like it didn't happen. And we got headlines of them where that's how they ended the minutes in their meetings. Listen, they hate your guts. This is as bad as it gets. And because you can't perceive it or see it or smell it or hear it or feel it or touch it or perceive it, you're being destroyed. So many facets to the story. And this is how the story goes. I'll give you the short version of the water filtration. Now, first off, the buildings don't even exist anymore. No one's willing to even admit that is real. This is the official picture. Way above that. So 2014 in August, 3.5 years later, for the last 3 years, the system has been unused, kept out of operation. That's the AREVA, which is the same as the ELP system, the water filtration system. The ELP system in 2014 has yet to function reliably. So you're talking about 3 years of pouring water over these buildings on a number you can't even comprehend. they normally need 4,500 tons a minute. And they're saying they're spraying 130 tons a day. Some of that goes through the filter and they spray it back on the reactor. They've been doing that, they said, for 12 years almost. The rest of it goes in the tanks. That's just the official story. The groundwater bypass operation 2014 wasn't working. That's where the water's coming down from the mountain behind it and washes through the site and pushes everything out into the Pacific, right? They couldn't stop it, and hasn't. Nothing's changed even today. They were going to install a fence to stop radiation from leaking. Whenever I hear the word leaking, I'm not very impressed. Let's put it that way. Into the Pacific Ocean. Of course, you can't build a fence. Fence is not going to stop radiation from. You're talking about multiple nuclear meltdowns, China syndrome's going on, where the ground is cracked in multiple places from explosions underground. TEPCO's ice wall operation not meeting expectations. They built an ice wall instead of a real wall. There's no top, no bottom. There's no way to keep the water in. The water comes down the mountain behind and flushes it all out. There's a huge aquifer underneath it. So back to this one here. Japan turns to live streaming fish in Fukushima safety campaign. There is no filtration system. You can't filter it because the problem is your filter is so much radiation after 20 minutes you can never go back in the building again, for goodness sakes. You need to fight back. They hate your guts. They're exterminating you and all the species. Why won't you fight back? I'm not talking to the regular people. They wouldn't be here if they weren't trying to fight back. Fish swimming in a tank of treated water. Treated. You can't treat it when there is no treatment system. You can't filter it because you're going to have a chain reaction in the filter. You're going to put all these neutrons and gammas and alphas and betas together in a filter. And by the way, we've seen their filters. They're not 6 feet thick lead. After 20 minutes or something, you got 1,000 sieverts in that. That's a lethal dose from a very long distance to anything with replicating cells, particularly humans. Part of a multi-million-dollar campaign to convince people it's safe. Multi-billion. Japan's launched a torrent of advertising campaigns to help convince a skeptical public that releasing, and they never stopped hemorrhaging it into the environment, they never has. I was working on the boat there, we got the patch done, and I spent hours and hours and hours and hours trying to clean the pontoons. I'm still dirty from it. We're going to go tomorrow and look at the bird colonies. The wind changed yesterday evening. Today was southeast. Not a great wind, but it's better than the northeast or easterly because they come straight in off the open ocean. You can't get any research in. I went down supper time on the bike, and there's still a pretty good groundswell, but it's coming down. It's going to be blowing southeast tonight and drop out in the morning. I'll catch the low tide tomorrow morning. And then I'll shoot that video and upload it. I'll do a little short, maybe a short live stream, but I'm going to shoot, instead of shooting an hour straight of, or 2 hours of live streaming from the boat, I might do that too. But the idea is to use the big camera with the gimbal, and I got a harness, right? It's a vest that I wear with a articulating arm. I need to get that working. And the gold colonies have failed. I seen a whale today. Just got a glimpse of him. And I hung around. It was a single whale. He He didn't stay at the surface. And it was like, I couldn't tell because he was quite a ways away whether he was moving in a direction or not. But generally, after feeding, I didn't see any gulls hanging around the whale, because if you're feeding, gulls will hang around them, and other birds, we haven't seen any migratory flocks, no migratory birds whatsoever in the biggest saltwater migratory run on the entire planet. We're officially, right now, 46 million migratory seabirds are coming through here. We haven't found a single one in 14 trips. We'll get back at it. We had bad weather for the last 6-7 days. Got high hopes for tomorrow. I ordered in a bunch of electrical wire and these new soldering connections where you put the wires in both ends and you just hit it with a heat gun, and it solders for you, and it's waterproof. It melts the wrapping, not melts it, but seals it. I got a lot of wiring I got to get after. We got lights ordered in, so I got 200 feet of wire, black and red combination ordered in, 20 gauge. And then I got a 25-foot, I ordered in a 25-foot booster cables. That's a 4 gauge. I'm going to take the cables off the end of it and hook it up to the outboard, because the one we're using now gave us a lot of problems. And I put it there like 6 years ago, right? 7, 8 years ago, even longer actually. And that wire should have been changed a few years ago. And I ordered in welding, because I almost got blinded the other day. I ordered in a welding helmet and long sleeve gloves, because I got burnt pretty darn good. Dana. And I also ordered in a like a balaclava that goes around your shoulders, because that shit burns, eh? So if I'm underneath the trailers, I'm going to get burnt like a nasty stuff. So I ordered in one of them, and like $168. And then just before we went live, I was like, oh shit, I don't have a heat gun. And so we got that all of this off Amazon. That's a 30. That's on top of 14 other. We got a lot of work, and all of this will show up next week. So I got stupid amount of work ahead of me. But we want to last all summer into the fall. We got to do the maintenance, right? The Japanese government set up a live stream of fish living in a tank who are treated better than the homeless that were at Fukushima. Like they're claiming, and in the tank I've treated. Every time I see that, I should be allowed to punch a nuclear scientist in the head. Public events and festivals are also underway at high school nationwide. Authorities. They're the farthest thing from the authorities. They're some bizarre creatures from another galaxy by the looks of it. Have held forums to provide an opportunity for the younger generation who will be responsible for the future. So they're going after the children again. They have an incredible fixation on the children, the nuclear industry does. They want to bring them into the death cult and get them when they're young, I guess. Such multifaceted campaigning is an attempt to quell fears over Japan. There's a third time in a week we use that word. A new word is coming. Japan's plan to release more than 1.3 million tons. 3 million tons of treated, they got to put it there. They haven't stopped releasing it. The buildings are completely destroyed. This is not up for a debate. The buildings are destroyed. So the claim that they're going to release it in the future, you really think they haven't stopped releasing it? I'm sure nobody that's here regularly does, but I mean, My goodness. I'm articulating it wrong. Let me do it another way. Can you imagine how evil they gotta actually be to pretend that never happened? And that you got everybody worked up in the big breadbasket of South Korea, Taiwan, China, and Japan, the victims. They got dim work. They got to fix that light there. Just fell on the laptop, which runs to YouTube and the comments, everything. Should the International Atomic Energy Agency, South Korea, China, Taiwan, and Japan admit the Fukushima nuclear fuel pools are melted down? Well, when you look at it, the building is supposed to be these tall. The bottom part, which you can see in the very bottom of the screen, that's the top of this part here. And that part is taller than either one of those reactors. So the fuel pools are gone. The fuel pools, where am I to? Oh my God, I was lost. Like a black hole for a second. It was horrible. I can see Grossi is stressed out. He can't get his way. He thought he's just going to waltz through. Has already been treated with a system called Advanced Liquid Processing System, removing most of the radioactive nuclides. And I just showed you in 2014, neither the Riva, and I did show you the Siri, but the Siri didn't work, and the Alps didn't work. And they didn't work because you can't filter fuel particulates and put them into a filter because you cause a chain reaction. And if you don't, you're still going to have so much gamma shines and neutron bombardments and alphas and betas shines, beta rays and everything else that you can't get back inside the building. You can't step over the hoses coming to the building. You can't walk past the tanks. If you fill up one of the tanks, you can't get back on the site. You can't filter this stuff. And they got every university and every media at their disposal to say they can. And they can't convince anybody even then, because, the buildings are gone. They've been gone for 12 years. For 12 years, it's been covering the planet. It's still hemorrhaging out of these stumps. And the earth is cracked all around it. Further validated Japan's plan, a key part of the commissioning of the ravaged, a zero tolerance for lawyers, I noticed over the last number of years. It's zero. I have zero. But stating that it met global safety standards after a 2-year review, I have nothing but contempt immediately when I see the lies. The International Atomic Energy Agency, which is not a regulatory agency, which doesn't promote or condemn, doesn't have any authority. Japan has the final say. Why are they even in the conversation? But despite such reassurance from approximately $20 million, the government has pulled for public relation projects, $20 million to get out, stomp out any criticism. Criticism from neighboring, there's no problem stomp me out. They've been doing that for over 12 years, well, 10 years for sure, hardcore. Particularly China, but also South Korea, keeps mounting, proving how difficult it will be for Japan to convince the general public of its planned safety. It's 100% desperation is what we're seeing. And they say simply for saving costs. No, they haven't stopped hemorrhaging it into the ocean. The buildings are actually destroyed. Isn't it time that we admit that? When should we admit that the buildings are destroyed? Will we ever admit that? Or is that the end of the story? We'll never, ever nobody will ever, it won't even be whispered in the corners of parliaments or diets or Congress or universities. We have all these non-government agents, organizations. We have all these non-profit organizations for nuclear. Not one of them. Not one of them returned my emails. Not one of them posted these pictures that I sent them. Not one of them. Not a single one. All of Greenpeace, Greenpeace Canada, Greenpeace USA, Greenpeace Australia, Greenpeace New Zealand, Greenpeace France, Greenpeace Scotland, Greenpeace Ireland, every one of them blocked me because I sent them these pictures. I kept tweeting them to them. SafeCast. Have you heard tell of SafeCast? They're a massive corporation now. They went down to Japan. The Americans went down and set up this organization called SafeCast, where they had homemade Geiger counters, and they hoodwinked the entire country. They took over the radiation reading of the entire country, just come down and imposed themselves, and became the number one. The only one BBC and NBC or ABC Australia or CBC Canada was the only one that they would recognize was SafeCast. And Asby Brown and the rest of them. These are disgusting, despicable, anti-species, anti-human monsters. These are monsters. The pro-nuclear, literally and figuratively, are just a bunch of demonic little demons trying to exterminate everybody for a paycheck. I can't figure out what's going on. Why are they so friggin' evil? Why do they hate everything so much? Why are they working so hard to destroy humanity? Why is the International Atomic Energy working so hard to destroy humanity? Why is the International Atomic Energy Agency... You've seen a picture of them at Fukushima. They were walking past reactor 5 and 6 from quite a distance. Normally they get their picture taken with reactor 3 and 4 the fake covers that they put on it to manipulate people into thinking they got the fuel pools out of the buildings that don't exist. Why are they so evil, though? Why be so evil? Why did he hate us so much? My eyes are still stinging from using... I had to use a lot of gasoline to clean the pontoons. Literally, you had to have it dripping off. And so I was wearing gloves and everything, but it's just the fumes. You can't escape it. I've been putting it off and putting it off and putting it off. If I didn't do it today, I probably wouldn't have got done this year. Now it's done. Looks great. But whoa, you literally can't get the smell. But I'm more hopeful. I don't know. To reduce the risk of such damage, the government set up funds to financially support the fishing industry. Like $500 million set aside. So if the fishermen can't sell their product, they'll buy it and freeze it. And they got markets lined up to ship it to. So they'll pay the fishermen, they'll buy the fish, so they keep fishing. Same thing with the farmers, right? They move the farmers right back into the nuclear wasteland. So get after it. Get out there, start growing food. And they're like, well, we can't. There's millions and millions of one-ton bags. It's okay, we'll clear a little spot for you. You start growing food. Yeah, but it's a ghost town. Nobody's allowed in there. You can go in there and grow food, stop whining. And he done that in the middle of the nuclear wasteland itself. The 14 markers, these are prefectures that were banned by 55 countries. The sadistic demons were growing food right alongside the one-ton bags and still are a couple of miles from the ongoing nuclear meltdowns for consumption and shipping it worldwide. They never stopped producing 1 billion pounds a year in the nuclear wasteland. This is a genocide and an omnicide because it destroys all species. But this is an extinction event. when you look at all the die-offs, you can trace it all the way back to 2011. And we are talking about a real-life extinction event. We broke the food chain in multiple places, and the trickle-down effect is now a snowball effect. The tactics employed by the Japs feel like propaganda. Instead of allowing an open discussion about what the Japs should do with the treated radioactive water, which they never stopped dumping into the Pacific and releasing into the air for 12 years, not a single time, the government's merely telling the public one-sidedly that the plan is safe. Well, the problem is they've done nothing but dump it. They can't keep everybody in on the lie. So they need a system where the people that are there believes, because it runs through the ELP system that doesn't even filter and then straight out into the ocean is what they're trying to do, right? But once you stop looking, the homeless don't understand what's going on because that's who's there, see? Tritium is everywhere, says the losers. Recent polls suggest opinions are slowly changing. Now, that's just the media, the hateful media skewing and making fake polls. And the Shimbum, which, how can you even, it's like saying CNN. The majority of the respondents were against the discharge of 45% in March this year. More were for the release. No, release it. I'm sure that's what they were saying, yeah? So whoever done that poll should be drowned in one of those tanks at Fukushima. Oh, Paul Dickman. Look, he always craps up, don't he? He's such a piece of shit. He's such a disgusting. He says, the air you breathe, the water you drink, the food you eat all contain tritium. Well, if you're in Canada, that's way truer than you'll ever know. They always have, at this level, it'd be just part of the natural environment, the despicable piece of shit said. That's him right there. These are murderers. Like, somebody stop this fucking piece of shit. This is a mass murderer. If you see someone murdering a bunch of children, goodness forgive, but you see that ever happening, you drive along, do you keep driving or do you go bump, bump and run the perp over? Because that's your instinct, right? Hopefully. I know if I seize it, that's what's going to be happening. Bump, bump. Reverse, bump, bump. Well, you stop screaming anyway. Might as well run over one more time to make sure it doesn't hurt me. Japan's move to dump the Fukushima water has no environmental chicken. Convincing the doubtful of the plan's benefit, it seems, might need more than a live stream from Fukushima fish. Ripples of Fukushima, Hong Kong to ban more Japanese product if the radioactive water, if the radioactive water is released and never stop releasing it. So really, there's no doubt, the evidence is really clear that Taiwan, South Korea, China, and Japan are working together, the nuclear industries and the governments and the universities, to manipulate the population. And for that population, they're claiming they're so stupid over there when it comes to nuclear, they got the population convinced everything is in the tanks, so nothing got out. I'm totally at a loss for words. When you look at Grossi, look at this picture right here. Look at his head. Look at that big stupid head. And this little idiot machine. That's a piece of shit right there. But look, he's frazzled, look. He's completely frazzled. He can't get his own way. He's just a puppet for UN, remember? He's literally a nobody. He's just somebody willing to murder everybody for a good pension. That's all he's doing. He's going around getting his picture taken, pretending that he has some redeeming qualities. Fukushima dump. S.Korea opposition calls to stop the dump. Now, they haven't stopped doing it for 12 years, but they're talking about from dumping it in the future. Find alternatives. If 5 alternatives were dump it in a hole in the ground, and the other 4 was release it into the environment, whether just natural evaporation, boiling it, venting it, what they call venting it, or just dumping it into the ocean. So 4 of the 5 options was to dump it into the air or the ocean. Because you can't account. Right? They told so many lies, this is the only solution they got. And you can see him, he's totally frazzled. He's like, come on, guys, we're all on the same team here, right? Are you guys part of Al-Qaeda or something? The opponent says the dump poses a serious threat to the global oceans. I'm confused because the plumes have been circling the planet now for 12 years from Fukushima. The buildings are actually destroyed. Poses a serious threat, the dump, but it hasn't stopped. They're hoodwinking the living daylights out of the planet by pretending everything is in a bunch of tanks and nothing has ever got clear to sight. Anything that got out of the destroyed buildings, which they refuse to acknowledge. Don't worry, it's only 2.2 grams, and it's so deadly, it's going to take us 30 years to release the 2.2 grams. Whoever come up with that story, like they should bring back burning people at the fucking stakes again for that person. And stick an IV in them and have a emergency crew there and never cook them all the way. Get them half healthy again and stick them back in the stake and start that fire again. Whoever come up to 2.2 grams. There's nobody on the planet deserves to be held accountable more than that disgusting parasite. Despicable, disgusting maggot that came up with that. And that S.Korea professor, and all these professors cutting your throats. When is the world going to wake up? Really? How many times have we covered professors cutting our throats? Blatant, vicious, hateful lies every single time. And the organization, the International Atomic Energy Agency, is not responsible for the outcome. Despite proven alternatives, about to put the entire mankind in peril, despite the fact that, what do you think has been going on now for 12 years? The only people allowed to have a conversation is people talk about tritium and tritium. These pictures are banned officially worldwide, unbanned worldwide. 23 people. 23 people. And what am I supposed to do? I got no choice but to come here and tell the story. I got no choice but to get out on the ocean tomorrow and see if anything survived the last couple of days before being discharged into the sea, which has never stopped. Water from the Fukushima nuclear power plant to be released into the Pacific Ocean, but they've never stopped releasing it. To be released. Somebody should release me. We need a couple of foundations to support me. I'll tear this industry apart in just a couple of months. I'll wreck nuclear. I'll wreck it. If I had the backing, if I had 1/1000th of the backing that Greenpeace had, I will kill nuclear in the next 3 months flat. If someone invests allows you $500,000, I can probably kill the industry in 6 to 8 months. I mean, I'll kill it too. They won't be able to survive what I'll do to it. I guarantee you. The planet will gladly kill it when he finds out anyway, and they're going to find out. What a stupid story, 2.2 grams. And what a piece of shit that professor we had a poll for yesterday, claiming it's like 3 grams of sugar cubes. Can you imagine how evil these people actually are? And they're teaching your kids in the university. A professor is probably the worst creature imaginable. After all these years, it's shocking, really. There's not a lot of professors, see? In the big scale of things. They got their, this is what they're after. They want people to protest the tritium. The treated water and the tritium. They're doing that on purpose. So the theory is Japan is going to capitulate and say, okay, once you get enough people worldwide, okay, well, we're not going to dump it into the ocean then. We'll put it on land. The world has a big fucking party. Oh, thank God we didn't kill the ocean and the planet. And this is what they've been doing for 12 years, is killing the ocean and the planet. I think that's what they're probably up to. I don't know for sure. Nobody, and I don't even know if they knows for sure what they're up to. They're murdering us. They're destroying everything. They're poisoning the living shit out of us. Like, they're gone crazy, is what I'm trying to say to you. It's blatantly obvious that they're gone crazy. First food item with radioactive traces from Japan this year is detected in Taiwan. Taiwan had 2,200 nuclear students in 2011. University nuclear students were ordered to go online and spread propaganda about Fukushima. Whenever you see anybody talking about Fukushima, go and say, don't worry, it's like a banana and a potato chip, and walking in the sunshine, and climbing mountains, and flying on an airplane. And they've done that for several years. I have a real special hate for the Taiwan nuclear industry. The first food items with radioactive traces, radioactive residues, radioactive traces, radioactive residues. A journalist is the most evilest thing imaginable. They're actually evil. Speaking of evil, how many people remember this guy? The linear no threshold creep. Dr. Ed Calabrese of the University of Massachusetts in Boston was studying the origin of the linear no threshold theory. He said the most obvious example of homeostasis is water. He says radiation, man-made radiation, a small amount of it increases your lifespan, increases fertility, you got faster healings, and decreases the chances of lung cancer, and increase in lifespan if you're only getting a little bit of man-made radiation. So he's conflating anthropogenic with man-made. We've covered him many, many times over here. I usually refuse to cover him because he's a disgusting parasite. He actually has over 600 papers on that, where he conflates it with natural, man-made, anthropogenic man-made with natural. with natural stuff. He's always cropping up. He should get a radium suppository for the rest of his life, that fucker. The NATO colossus is built on shifting sand. NATO was built in response to the Soviet Union, which was a military alliance. Currently, it's 28 militaries, I believe. Or is it 30 now, right? Militaries. If you go look up NATO, that's what it'll say. 30 militaries. United Nations is 195. And so NATO, like Canada, well, we're not going to war, but we're part of NATO, so we're going to help NATO go to war. You see what's going on? And so they put the right people in positions of to make those decisions, And that's what the United Nations does. And NATO is their little pet poodle, basically, that defecates everywhere it goes. Depleted uranium and stuff like that, cluster bombs and everything else. So they were built in response to the Soviet Union. So when the Soviet Union engineered collapse happened, then that should have been the end of NATO. And NATO is now a threat against humanity. It has all kinds of nuclear weapons, has its own military, its own jets. And I'm pretty burnt out, so we're just going to have a short show tonight. And I got to get up in the morning and go out and look for the remainder. All we got left is maybe 5 species. And it's almost impossible to find them. And there's a couple of what we call residential colonies of seagulls. There's just 2 of them. They're raising their fledglings right now from scrap from the fish plant that is doing crabs. And I went past one fish plant today and I smelled capelin, heavy smell of capelin. So there is some capelin coming in. But we're not, that's what I'll be looking for tomorrow at low tide, is the capelin rolling. And then at the same time, you're going to have all kinds of birds trying to eat the eggs and the capelin. But you'll also have, halibut and flounders and codfish and all kinds of species trying to eat the capelin, and that'll bring in bigger predators. The capelin will also bring in whales and porpoises and all kinds of other species. There's a whole ecosystem that migrate with the capelin, right? And so we're going to go look for that. And we're going to check the health of the colony. The colonies are failing. The colony in the south side of the big bay we're going to use, we know it has no chicks the last time we were out, which is a week ago. And at the south side had only a few, maybe 1% survival. The cormorants had a whole bunch of dead chicks in the nest. And the tickle-ass, which is about 200 of them, had no chicks whatsoever, no fledglings whatsoever. And so we just got what they call capelin weather here, where the wind comes in from the open ocean, so it's pretty rough, and it's cold, and you get the warm air from the west, and then the wind changes, it comes off the ocean, so it creates all this fog. And that allows the capelin to lay their eggs without worrying about them drying up in the sun while they're waiting for the tide to come up, right? And so, weird start to the summer. We're out in the Atlantic Ocean. We're on the edge of the continent, and right on the edge of the continental shelf. We're at the most easterly point on the continent. We're 12 miles from that. So we're out in the middle of nowhere. We're in the perfect migratory. There's around 46 million birds supposed to come through here each year. We're going to go out there tomorrow. Now, we've done the same thing on the West Coast. Yeah. So that's the same boat I'll be using tomorrow. I cleaned those pontoons today, and I put another patch Water patch. The boat of many colors. And so this was from Vancouver, British Columbia to Alaska for 6 years, 4 to 5 months a year on the ocean without coming home. And what we discovered on these research expeditions, what we discovered, that's not it. What we discovered, that's what it typically looked like, miserable, eh? This is a typical shitty day. Let me go back a little bit. That's coming back. So we went into all the low tide zones, and what we discovered was all of these species, beautiful, amazing, wonderful, absolutely wonderful species, were severely impacted by the radioactive fallout from the fuel pools that no longer exist and the reactors that melted down. And the people to the right are pretending they're in the fuel pool, but it doesn't even exist anymore. So why would he do something like that? Well, because it exterminated all the species. And so I launched research expeditions year after year after year. And when we discovered in the first year the species were all gone, we had to go back each year, and there's 27,000 islands all the way to Alaska each year and back, sometimes twice, to find out if the species came back, because they're supposed to come back, but they didn't. So now we're seeing the same thing in the Atlantic Ocean, and we're 12 years too late, but we're documenting it because that has to get done. Nobody else is going to do it. If we don't do it, it's never going to get done. And so the species to your left are exterminated. They're permanently gone. We know that because we went back year after year after year after year. And methodically, just meandered nonstop throughout all the pinch points where the ocean has to pass through to get to the interior, where there's 27,000 islands. And you can imagine, is it worth sacrificing all these species so the nuclear industry can have another couple of decades of pillaging and looting our planet? They're disgusting. You had 865,000 extra cancers in the first year. And Raphael Grossi will sniff your bicycle seat if you're not careful. It's true, I swear to goodness. I would not make stuff up about that. That's very serious stuff. He's a demon and always be a demon like the rest of the demons before him. And if he wasn't doing this, he'd be out there sniffing bicycle seats. That's a fact. Ask any journalist, and they'll tell you, Dana's like a banana in a potato chip. Why are you so shy? Should the International Atomic Energy Agency, South Korea, China, Taiwan, all admit Fukushima nuclear fuel pools are melted down and gone? That'd be a good start. We're going to have to admit it. We can't keep pretending forever. The truth's going to come out, whether they like it or not. I don't understand why we can't have a single foundation support us. I have such a big operation, right? It's so hard just to do the maintenance, just to fuel everything. Because I crushed the nuclear industry. I crush it. Okay, well, that was a quick show tonight. Let's close the poll down. Should the International Atomic Energy Agency, South Korea, China, Taiwan, Japan admit that the buildings are gone? Because, they're gone. Not almost gone, they've been gone for 12 years. And for 12 years, they got the population walking around like chickens, incapable of comprehending. And now they got them so brainwashed that the population in Asia believes that there's 2.2 grams got out, and it's all in the tank, so it doesn't really matter. It's going to take them 30 years to release the 2.2 grams. I got to figure out, because we must have it here somewhere. Who came up with that story originally? Who broke that story? Who was the first people to say that story? Because it's only 3 weeks old, see? That's what they're telling Asia. Nothing happened whatsoever. Disgusting, isn't it? Well. Where's this volume to on this? And my eyes are hurting. I'm gonna have to go jump in the shower again. See if I can get rid of some of this. We'll be okay tomorrow. I'll see everybody tomorrow night. Have a great night. A great day tomorrow. And keep an eye on the site, the YouTube channel. I'll probably be posting a live stream for a little short one while I'm on the ocean. But when I get ashore, I'll upload the very high quality, so you got all kinds of details. The tides are still dropping over the next week, and then we're going to have super low tides. Thanks for everybody. Thank you, everybody, for finding time, the energy, the effort, and the courage to come here and hear the truth, as terrible as it is. I'll see everybody tomorrow night. If you make it this far, don't forget to give us a thumbs up. It costs us little. It might go a long way.